Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Gabriel's header, firing Arsenal into North London derby victory at Tottenham. We'll discuss Chelsea and United's away victory this past weekend. We'll discuss Barcelona being whether or not Barcelona are the favorites to win La Liga after their comfortable victory over Girona. We'll discuss Liverpool taking on AC Milan as the Champions League is set to return tomorrow. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show. I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on in this soccer world. Before we start off, if you've got a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the Super Chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your Super Chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that Super Chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off to Arsenal getting their crucial North London derby victory. Keep in mind, this is an Arsenal game coming off a disappointing game pre-international window where they dropped points to Brighton at home, so they couldn't really find themselves in a position to drop points yet again. With competing with the likes of Manchester City, who we know the deal with them, with Manchester City. Game in, game out, the dominance with them. Throat a little dry. This Manchester City team looks even better than last season in dominating performances, game in and game out, playing really, really good football. And we know what it's like, trying to battle with them. You have to be perfect game in, game out. There's very little room for error. So it's a crucial win for Arsenal in this North London derby. I will say, there's a lot of moments to discuss from this game, a lot of talking points. There's the Julian Timber, Pedro Porro incident. Should have been a yellow card, shouldn't have been a yellow, should have been a red card, should have been a yellow card. Sort of questions. There's also following that not the fight, but the disgruntledness between Vicario and between Tottenham and Arsenal that resulted because of that. There's the goal, who's to blame on that goal, potential foul leading up to the goal as well. There's a lot of talking points there, but I'm gonna start off with the Arsenal perspective in terms of, coming into this game, no Martin Odegaard, no Mikel Merino, no Declan Rice, who's suspended as well. You find yourself in a very difficult position, especially in the midfield wise, really lacking that creativity. And really, look, this season Arsenal have not been their progressive sort of best style of play, really dominating the game by possession. That sort of Arsenal. It hasn't been that sort of Arsenal. It's been an Arsenal that play a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more measured in their approach, and a little bit more defensive. And in this game, Tottenham were the protagonists, I have to say. If you look at the statistics, 15 shots for Tottenham, 7 shots for Arsenal, 5 shots for Tottenham, 4 shots for Arsenal, 64% possession for Tottenham, 36% possession for Arsenal. And Arsenal, similar story to Aston Villa, going away, for Arsenal, the big thing there is just, they went in the mentality, let's just get the result. Let's defend really, really well. Let's not give any space. Let's give everything. Let's keep everything in front of us. And when we have our individual moments to take advantage of, let's take advantage of it. And it came on a set piece, opportunity from Gabriel. They didn't create much from open play. Arsenal did. No real clear-cut chances. Martinelli, he had a chance earlier in the first half where he could have played in. Bukayo Saka decides to go himself. Comfortably saved by Vicario. But apart from that, no real clear cut out chances for Arsenal. Primarily because Tottenham had a lot more of the ball. Tottenham were controlling the game. Tottenham had a lot more of the ball in the other side of that pitch, and Arsenal were really playing a sort of transitional game, and then they were gonna need to nick a goal, and they were able to nick a goal on a set piece, which is obviously brilliant for them. And going in for Arsenal, the most important thing was getting the result, because this is a tough place to find yourself in, with the lack of creativity in the team, with Odegaard being out. I thought they would bring in Havertz into the midfield and bring in Gabriel Jesus. He instead of what it was Trossard, and went a little bit differently. But it's still, we knew that Arsenal were going to go into this game a little bit more of a defensive mindset, especially, with the way Tottenham have performed this season in terms of being able to control the ball, but really lacking that cutting edge to get the ball into the back of the net. And for me, with Tottenham, it's the same story that Tottenham have had all season. They do some really, really good things in terms of being able to control the game, in terms of, being able to control the game and have good possession in dangerous areas, but really lack that real cutting edge, that real decisiveness in the box to kill it off, to have that real killer will. And now Dominic Solanke is back, and it's still the same story with Arsenal and with Tottenham. And Dominic Solanke is not to blame. Despite Arsenal having a lot of the ball and playing some really, really good football and being able to control the tempo of the game and being the protagonist, again, when I say real cutting edge, there was not that many. Despite how well Tottenham played, they didn't create enough big chances. They didn't get that final ball right enough of the time. They didn't take advantage of when they did get in areas that they could get a strike off. They didn't get their strikes off in important areas. They looked a little, once they got it up to the final third, it just looked a little bit broken, a little bit, lacking the knowledge of how to break down the defense, especially in the final third. I thought they just looked a little shaky when the ball reached the final third. Everything else, though, they played really, really well, and it's been the story of their season, in my opinion, with Tottenham. With this game, with the Newcastle game, with the obviously not the Everton game, but with this game, the Newcastle game, and the Leicester game, the 3 games that they dropped points in, the 2 losses and the draw to Leicester. It's been the same story. They played better than the opposition. They controlled the game. They had a lot more opportunities. They played the better football. They just lacked that cutting edge, and it's the same story for them. And Dominic Solanke, he wasn't there for the Newcastle game, but he was back here. But it's still the same old story. And I'm not blaming Dominic Solanke. In that Leicester game, yes, he did miss a few opportunities that he could have done better, maybe done better. But here against Arsenal, there was not much chances created for him. He had an opportunity in the first half, sort of a half chance on a header on a really good ball played in by Maddison. I thought Solanke did a really good job by getting his head on it and turning that into an opportunity. But apart from that, again, there was a few moments that, they could have played in that ball that James Maddison played it and gave Dominic Solanke a chance to win a 50-50 ball in the air. But they didn't do that enough. They didn't get the ball to Dominic Solanke's and Solanke in areas that he could really threaten. And for me, it's really poor from Tottenham in how they were able to control the game against Arsenal, but not create, at least in my opinion, 3 4 clear cut opportunities. There was not any clear cut opportunities in my opinion. I mean, there was a few opportunities here and there, but nothing clear cut. Raya didn't exactly have to have a man of the match. Yes, there was 5 shots on target, but nothing clear cut from them. And yeah, it's really just. But for Arsenal though, it's a great win for Arsenal. Really phenomenal win for Arsenal to be able to get it done. Similar win against Aston Villa. But I do have to say, going away to Aston Villa and going away to Tottenham, those are difficult tasks to be done. But going forward, Arsenal, they, I'm pretty, I know Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, they know this, but they can't be relying on individual moments and try to win the Premier League based on that. I think Mikel Arteta realizes, when trying to compete for the Premier League with a team like Manchester City, you don't need to play scintillating football game in, game out. Sometimes it's fine to just get the result and move on. And I think that's what Mikel Arteta is realizing, especially earlier in these games where they had these sort of games last season. Arsenal did, where this sort of performance, maybe it was a draw instead of a win, but instead Mikel Arteta wants to be a little bit more safe, on the safe side, and sort of play for the play defensive and nick the goal, and that be enough for them. Don't open yourself up in a position that you don't need to. And I think that's the sort of approach that Arteta has, and I think the way that they played earlier this season with the combination of Odegaard also being out should have been sort of a warning to us. Okay, this is what's coming, especially going away to Tottenham. Now Arsenal, they have that midweek tie to play with Atalanta. Then you got City at the Etihad this Sunday. Very interesting to see how Arsenal approach that game, and I would like to see how Mikel Arteta approaches that game, how Mikel Arteta also approaches the Atalanta game as well, because that game will be played on despite it being Champions League, it will be played on Thursday. Because of this new Champions League format, it's a little bit different now. I think the first match days, there's a Thursday slot for games. So yeah, that's also going to be interesting to see, with that short week. That's only that's only 2 days of rest till they take on City away, Friday and Saturday. That's, and then this is a Arsenal team that have to go away to Bergamo to take on Atalanta. So yeah, I'm gonna be very interested to see that, to see how Arsenal approach these next 2 games. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Chelsea and United getting victories this weekend.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Gabriel, a header firing Arsenal into North London derby victory at Tottenham. We move on to discuss Chelsea and United getting away victories this past weekend. Two games, in my opinion, a little bit similar. Sort of the way the games went. Some similarities amongst these two games in which both teams had opportunities. Both losing teams, regarding Bournemouth against Chelsea and Southampton against United, had earlier opportunities that could have made this game, the story of this game, different. Both teams couldn't capitalize, and then the team with the better quality took advantage eventually. Now, we start off with United. Let's start off with United versus Bournemouth, versus Southampton. Look, can put into words how crucial of a victory this was for Manchester United. Not for Manchester. Oh yes, for Manchester United, obviously, only having 3 points in 3 games this season, but Erik ten Hag in the position he found himself in, I have to say, if they lost this game, maybe even a point, but no, if they lost this game, Ten Hag would, we'd probably sitting here discussing Ten Hag being fired, or we'd be discussing, this is a matter of time now. He is really on the hot seat at Manchester United. After that, it was, those past 2 losses that they've suffered before the international break. But now they're coming off a victory against Southampton. A Southampton team that still hasn't had a point this season since they've been promoted. And yeah, it's a vital win for United. And there was some individual moments in the game that United fans should hang on to. De Ligt being able to grab the opening goal, his first goal since coming into United. Keep in mind, this is De Ligt that's been hugely criticized and during the international break after mistakes that he suffered in both international breaks, and then there was there was comments that Ronald Koeman that people were going crazy about. The criticism was mounting with De Ligt and how he responded. Shows a great sense of character inside of him. We know that this is not someone that a butler or anything. De Ligt, this is someone that captained Ajax aged 19. So we know that there's something about him. There's something inside of him. And he rose in the situation in a desperate situation, but he rose up, and I think he should be commended and praised for that. And then another one, Marcus Rashford, who's been, I'm not gonna use the word, but he's been that for United over the past year and a half or so. He's been, that word, what I'm trying to say. It's a 4-letter word that starts with a S and ends with a T. Yeah, but he's been bull. He's been horrible. He's been garbage. And Erik ten Hag has continued to to stand by him, continuing to start him game in, game out in crucial games and crucial moments. He is still, the guy that that Erik ten Hag relies on, and today, he got the goal. Now, the thing with Marcus Rashford is consistency. Always, that's the problem. Maybe this is a spark for Marcus Rashford, where he can go on another, sort of 7 to 8 unbelievable months of an unbelievable run at Manchester United before he inevitably, disappears yet again for another 2 years. Maybe that, that sort of spark is coming, and maybe that spark is necessary for Erik ten Hag to be able to save his job before he looks at necessary replacements needed at that position. Maybe he's waiting for that spark to come again before he waits to replace him, if he has the time to even do that. But But to be honest though, when I opened up talking about the opening, Southampton, they dominated this game early on, and they squandered an opportunity to take the lead with Cameron Archer missing a poor penalty, where Andre Onana was able to saved it, and then that shifted everything from there. De Ligt went on to score that goal, and yeah, it was and then that turned around, and then with the Chelsea Bournemouth game, we move on to the Chelsea Bournemouth game. Similar aspect to that. This was a little bit different. Bournemouth was able to hang on longer than Southampton were able to hang on against United. But Bournemouth, they had their opportunities. Bournemouth, they struck the woodwork twice, and then Evan Nielsen had that first half penalty that was saved by Robert Sanchez. And Bournemouth, Bournemouth were a better team in that first half. They created a lot of opportunities, as I said. But then Bournemouth legs, they started going, and then Chelsea, we know the ridiculous amount of signings that they've made, and they have some quality that they could bring in off the bench. You're talking a Chelsea team that's bringing on João Felix, Nkunku, Jadon Sancho off the bench. Mikhailo Mudryk didn't even sniff in the game. This is Mikhailo Mudryk that's 100 million plus sort of costing of a player. So we know the depth that's there was Chelsea, and with Bournemouth, they didn't take advantage of their chances early. They couldn't get the penalty to go, and the energy levels started dwindling. And when Chelsea were bringing on players like Nkunku, Sancho, and João Felix, Bournemouth were bringing on Julian Araujo, Philip Billing, Enes O'Neill, Luis Sinestra, Alex Scott, which are not bad players, but are not to the ability of players that Chelsea have to bring on. And as the time went on and on, Bournemouth players' legs started going slowly, and Chelsea, and it seemed like, if anyone was going to win it in the last 15 minutes or so, it was Chelsea. It was Chelsea that finished the game strongly. And Nkunku's the one that got the winning goal in the 86th minute, after he came on in the 79th minute, and he started a play where he's able to glide past two Bournemouth defenders who, you could tell, tired legs, little scared to put in the tackle because you're in the box, and any sort of contact, we know that Nkunku's gonna go down. That's the day and age we find ourselves in the football world. And by the way, I forgot the attacker specifically, but Bournemouth had a player. Chelsea had a clumsy one of the Chelsea defenders. I don't think it was Colwell. I believe it might have been Fofana or dissect. I forgot, but one of the Chelsea players made a reckless attempt to play the ball. The Bournemouth player could have taken the bait and sort of fell down. He decided not to go for it and decided to sort of play through the tackle. You know what? That was a potential penalty that that a Bournemouth player gave up there. But again, it speaks to the missed opportunities that Bournemouth had. But for Chelsea, Nkunku was able to take advantage of tired defenders and them now wanting to make a challenge in the box. He's able to glide past them. Really good finish too, in a sort of awkward position, sort of having to kind of almost toe poke it into the back of the net in the awkward position he found himself in. Really good finish, really good play from him, really good control and touch to put it right where he wanted to be. And yeah, it's a good win for Chelsea. They move up to 7th now with 7 points from 4 games. And and it wasn't exactly an amazing display by Chelsea, but they were able to take advantage going away to Vitality Stadium against Bournemouth. It's a good result. And this is Chelsea. They snapped their 17 straight Premier League away games without having a clean sheet. And I do have to say, Robert Sanchez did have a pretty good save. He looked, he made saves that he needed to, and he looked comfortable and assertive in there. And, I'm not the biggest fan of Robert Sanchez, but against Bournemouth, I thought he was, decent. Short break here coming up, though. When we come back, we will discuss Barcelona and their win over Girona.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Chelsea and United's away victories this past weekend. We move on to discuss Barcelona. Barcelona find themselves sitting pretty at the top of La Liga, 4 points clear from any other team. So far, just through 5 games, and they're perfect. 5 games from 5, 5 wins, no drop points, no draws, no losses. 17 goals scored, 4 goals conceded, a goal differential of 13. They've been absolutely brilliant with Hansi Flick coming in, and they played some really, really good football. Barcelona have, and this is a Hansi Flick that's having to, adapt with not having a natural 6, this season period. They had the issue with Bernal and him suffering injury, but whether or not he was going to be the answer, especially against the better teams, to really be the dictator and compose the midfield, be the composer of a midfield, was he really the answer against the big teams? We don't know. Now it's Marc Casado that's playing in there, but it's something that Hansi Flick has had to adapt with, and they're adapting really, really well. We see an element of directness, of verticality from this Barcelona team with the likes of Lamine Yamal, Rafinha. They're playing some really good football. Lewandowski, he's back to his best as well. Dani Olmo, he was able to get a goal, suffered an injury that's going to take him out for a few weeks now, which is a rough blow for Barcelona. Dani Olmo is an important part of what Hansi Flick is trying to do. But look, so far 5 games through, I think they're, not only are they playing some of the best, looking like the best team in La Liga, they're looking like one of the best teams in the world, So far, if I have to do a power rankings in terms of teams this season, it'd be them and City battling at the top, which is a remarkable, jump that they've had, compared to last season with the team, being far away from Real Madrid. Yes, finishing second, but not competing anywhere near them for that La Liga title against the Champions League. In the Champions League, getting past Napoli, and then that PSG tie sort of falling apart in that second half, albeit, mostly because of that red card from Julian Araujo that put themselves in a bad position. But again, this Barcelona team looks day and night compared to some of the Barcelona teams we've seen over the past few years. And this Barcelona team so far looks, better than all the Barcelona teams that we've seen since Ernesto Valverde. And keep in mind, Hansi Flick has had success against, some of those teams post Ernesto Valverde specifically. That team was Setien that lost 8-2. We know what Hansi Flick can do, and Hansi Flick, his name did take a little bit of a hit after the German chop, but in terms of tactics, in terms of tactical brilliance, in terms of style of play, in game, adaptation. He's a brilliant manager, and he's turned this Barcelona team into a scary team, and a team, it's been actually really, really fast how they've been able to get this team, how he's been able to get this team playing the way that they did. Because look, yes, they haven't played against Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, okay, but this is a Barcelona team that's taken on the likes of, a Girona team that finished in the top, in the top 4 last season. They finished third. You have an athletic club that, should be a decent team this season. They did take on Valencia at the Mestalla to open up the season, which I thought Valencia would be a decent team this season, but, they've been so far really, really poor. They actually find themselves bottom with a draw and 4 losses. So yeah, it's, Barcelona, they find themselves in a really, really good position. And in this game against Girona, in my opinion, they really did. And keep in mind, this game was played away at the Montilivi. And by the way, quick crazy note there. Christian Stewani, he was able to get the goal in the 80th minute for Girona. I had no idea he's still playing football. I had no idea. This is Christian Stewani that I remember him back in the 2014 World Cup days in Brazil, playing for Uruguay. Christian Stewani. So it was really, really, really fascinating to see that he's still playing, aged 37 years old. Didn't know he's still involved. But yeah, Lamine Yamal, he was able to get 2 goals. How great is Lamine Yamal, by the way? 17 years old. We know the talent and ability, but for his age, the composure, the discipline, the ability and talent, yes, but the ability and talent, is very, very important. But when you're age 17 and you're doing what he's doing, it's a real show of discipline, a real show of mental strengths, of having composure, having discipline, and he's just a great player, and it's hard to comprehend. We almost stopped talking about Lamine Yamal and forget the fact that he's 17, because we're almost getting used to the sort of success that he's having. But we shouldn't be used to this. What he's doing age 17 is crazy. It's ridiculous. And he's a really, really good player, and he's only going to continue to get better. And he scored the 2 opening goals for Barcelona in the 30th and 37th minute. And Dani Olmo, he was able to get that 3rd goal right after halftime, with, again, one of his trademarks, first-time efforts from inside the box. Pedri able to tap in the 4th and the 64th minute in a game that, Barcelona really, played really well in, really dominated. Girona, they couldn't deal with Barcelona's pressing. They let, and this is at home as well for Girona. They made a lot of mistakes, and they, Barcelona were able to pounce on them, and get opportunities off the mistakes that Girona made trying to handle the press. Lamine Yamal, he actually took advantage of a poor pass from David Lopez. He stole the ball, and that led to a goal, and then Yamal, he scored the opening goal, and then Yamal scored the 2nd goal off of a rebound from a free kick, and they just couldn't. Girona couldn't handle that, that constant pressure that Barcelona had. They couldn't handle the directness of Barcelona, and overall, Barcelona were just more comprehensive. Just looked more athletic, looked the better team overall. And Girona are, they're not a bad team. But this game, they got outclassed, and Barcelona were the better team. They played much better football. And yeah, Girona, they never really, from minute one, Barcelona were the better team. And look, this is a new look Barcelona. The way that they play, how they press, especially this game. I think out of all the 5 opening games so far, with the first 4 games, we saw the sort of Hansi Flick sort of, more forward going, more direct, more verticals. We saw that sort of stuff from Hansi Flick, but we didn't really see the relentless sort of gegenpress that we know from Hansi Flick and history of German managers. Not history, but really the tree of Ralf Rangnick. Hansi Flick sort of comes from that tree. Jurgen Klopp, Julian Nagelsmann. We know that they're all heavy metal football. They want to win the ball high and be very, very direct and vertical. And we saw that all the verticality and how direct they are in some of these earlier games, but we didn't see that relentless pressure that we saw in this game. This game, they went in and they put the pressure on. They pressed really, really high and they suffocated Girona in a way that they haven't been able to, but ways that they haven't really shown earlier this season, despite how successful this season has been. This is the first game that we've seen that sort of gegenpress that we expected to see from the beginning. So really impressive performance overall for Barcelona. And now these two teams have Champions League games midweek. No, to worry about. Barcelona take on Monaco on Thursday, and Girona actually go away to Parc des Princes to take PSG on Wednesday. So yeah, we're looking forward to those games. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Liverpool taking on AC Milan at the San Siro.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Barcelona being the favorites to win La Liga. We move on to to preview. We talked about a little bit about some of the opening games coming up this Champions League window, and the big game coming up from tomorrow is Liverpool taking on AC Milan. But before we start off, I do want to read the games coming up tomorrow. The earlier slated games, the 11:45 window. Juventus take on PSV at the Allianz Stadium, and Aston Villa take on Aston Villa go away to the Wankdorf Stadium in Switzerland when they take on Young Boys. So those are going to be the two 11:45 a.m. my time. So obviously, the first time slot. And then the later window, Real Madrid take on Stuttgart, Bayern take on Dinamo Zagreb, Sporting Lisbon take on Lille, and then the big game that we're going to discuss on this segment right now, AC Milan take on Liverpool at the San Siro. We know the history amongst these two teams in terms of the Champions League. They played in multiple Champions League finals. We know the miracle game at Istanbul the miracle game at Istanbul that Liverpool were able to win. A few years later, AC Milan were able to get their revenge, and they defeated Liverpool. This is an AC Milan and Liverpool team that are actually, AC Milan is second place in terms of most Champions League trophies. Liverpool are third. Tied was Bayern Munich with 6 titles. Right underneath AC Milan was 7. So these are two teams with huge pedigree in the Champions League, huge history, huge rivalry as well, sort of intercontinental rivalry. The fact that they're both, they're not from the same country, but it just makes it a little bit juicy. In fact, in terms of recent history, Liverpool did knock out AC Milan of the Champions League a few seasons ago when they went away at the San Siro in the last game of the group stage, and they defeated them 2-1. Milan needing a win in that game, and by the way, it was a Liverpool team that didn't really need that result at all. Their fate in that group was sealed. They already moved on. I believe they moved on as winners as well. So yeah, it's obviously this is going to be a really fascinating game. As far as form, these two teams entering, Liverpool are coming off a bad result. They've had a good start to the season before the international break, 3 wins of 3, and then they came off that really, really good game going away to Old Trafford and dominating Manchester United. But they had their first slip-up to the season. They lost to Nottingham Forest, lost to Callum Hudson-Odoi's winner in the 72nd minute against Nottingham Forest, in which it was very, very surprising from what we saw. It was a Liverpool team that really lacked that cutting edge. In that first 45 minutes, Liverpool absolutely dominated and had a few opportunities that they could have, took in the lead. Luis Diaz, he actually came close in the 17th minute, not being able to tuck it in the near post. And then Dominic Szoboszlai, he had an opportunity as well, a header shortly after. But apart from that, no real cutting edge. No real cutting edge from Liverpool, especially in that second half. And Nottingham Forest with took advantage of the wastefulness of Liverpool, and they punished them and they buried them through a moment of magic from Callum Hudson-Odoi with a great strike. Alanga actually played in a really good ball to Hudson-Odoi, and Hudson-Odoi was able to get a beautiful curler past Alisson. That's it. But when you were wasteful and you don't take advantage of your opportunities, in this Premier League, going up against a weaker opposition, if you're not going to take advantage of your opportunities, someone else will, and someone else will bury you. And that's exactly what Nottingham did. Now, AC Milan, they're coming off a little bit opposites in terms of really poor start to the season for their standards, with only having 2 points in their first 3 games, with a bad loss to Parma, and then 2 draws against Torino and Lazio. So those first 3 games really poor. But after the international break, they're coming off that their victory this Saturday. They got past Venezia, 4-0, comfortable victory. Really won the game in the first half. They had early goals from Theo Hernandez and Yusuf Fofana, and then 2 penalties in the 25th and 29th minute from Pulisic, who's able to tuck it home, and Tammy Abraham, who gets that second penalty. And, the game is over in the first half, essentially, for AC Milan. But, you look at overall, if you have to look at overall the season, AC Milan hasn't been the strongest outfit. And these are both teams in AC Milan, Liverpool, new managers, with Paulo Fonseca managing Liverpool, and Arne Slot taking on Paulo Fonseca managing AC Milan, and Arne Slot managing Liverpool, and it's been opposite sort of starts for both managers. And speaking of this game, when Paulo Fonseca was discussing on Monday, he said his team will have to be perfect defensively when they take on Liverpool. Paulo Fonseca said, "I think Liverpool is one of the strongest teams in Europe. They have a good game and strong individuals. We have to be perfect defensively. You cannot make mistakes. I see it as an opportunity to show our progress. It will lead us to do different things, but also to prove our worth. I am sure it will. The support of our fans is always important for us. Tomorrow, it will be like that. We want to feel their love. Milan actually also has to play Inter Milan on Sunday as well. And yeah, again, it's always interesting to see now. Manchester City, they're taking on Inter Milan as well, and I believe on Wednesday, and City take on Arsenal on Sunday, and Inter Milan will take on AC Milan. So it's interesting to see how teams, sort of prioritize these early Champions League windows with this new 8-game format where you have a little bit of room of slip up, especially if you have that big game coming up this weekend. Does it lead to you potentially mixing and matching midweek? I like to see how the managers approach it. When Paulo Fonseca was talking about it, he said, we have many games and I have to think about all of them. Tomorrow is definitely the most important because it's the next one. But I can't forget that on Sunday, there's the derby. Morata, he was also at the presser. He said it will be a great, we know him, the new signing for AC Milan. He said it will be a great challenge. We have so many different players and we have to fix so many mechanisms. Only time will tell. Ever since you arrive at a club like this, you dream of playing with Liverpool in the Champions League. It could even be a semi-final. It's just strange that we play right away. There's so much desire. They're the games that make sporting history. And yeah, I think with Liverpool, they just need to get back to the ways that they had earlier this season in terms of, the football that they had. I think that Nottingham Forest was a misstep. Just the cutting edge wasn't there. And I don't think that's something we will see again in this game. I think Mo Salah, if he's back and he's fit and he's firing, and Liverpool, they have a little bit more cutting edge and a little bit more decisive and forward thinking and not, as stagnant as we saw them against Nottingham Forest. And to be honest, against Nottingham Forest, they were unlucky as well. They did like cutting edge, but they were unlucky. They had a few opportunities that, they really could have took advantage of. It's just like a wrong day, wrong time sort of feeling of that game. And then Nottingham Forest take advantage. We'll see that same wastefulness for Liverpool. And I think AC Milan have struggled. I think AC Milan will be able to struggle. Will struggle to sort of contain the way Liverpool go forward. Will struggle to contain the likes of Luis Diaz and Mohamed Salah, the verticality of them too, of Trent Alexander-Arnold and the balls that he can play in. I think Liverpool have more talent and are better and more consistent team going forward, and will create a lot more opportunities and will be able to control possession because they just overall the quality of Liverpool is better than AC Milan, and I'm gonna favorite Liverpool to take advantage of AC Milan, even with the fact that this is a midweek battle. This is a battle at the San Siro. I do think Liverpool will take advantage. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. before the break, we discussed Liverpool taking on AC Milan at the San Siro. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines. And the first one we have to say, City's hearing. The hearing is set to begin on Manchester City's charges into their 115 financial breaches of the Premier League financial regulations. They finally began on Monday. It was reported that the trial would begin on Monday, with the hearing being dubbed by the British media as the sports trial of the century. The meeting is gonna be around 2 months. That's how long it's expected, and they want it to be completed by the end of the season. They want the final verdict to be announced by the end of the season. City, they've won the Premier League 4 times in a row, 5 times out of the last 6, and and an independent commission in February 2023. They were referred to an independent commission in February 23, was charges from 2009 to 2018. The club have continuously denied any wrongdoings. Pep Guardiola has continuously denounced any wrongdoings. And, there's been a lot of claims that he's made saying if he believes that there's anything wrong, anything illegal going on, he wouldn't be the manager at City. He would leave, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, if City were to be found guilty on any of the charges, this could potentially put them in positions to face penalties such as massive amount of fines, point deductions, and even to the major extent potential relegation from the English Premier League. And it'll also put, whether it is a metaphoric or even a little asterisk over there's this crazy ridiculous historic run that they've went on over the past 7-8 years or so. 8 Premier League titles, 1 Champions League, 3 FA Cups, 6 League Cups, a UEFA Super Cup, a FIFA Club World Cup, since they've been bought by this new ownership group in Abu Dhabi in 2008. And even on Friday, Pep Guardiola, he welcomed the start of the trial. He said it starts soon and then hopefully finishes soon. An independent panel will decide, and I am looking forward to that decision. We're going to see. I know what people are looking forward to, what they expect. I know what I read for many, many years. I am not a lawyer. Erling is not a lawyer. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. The charges state that City, didn't provide the correct financial information and didn't disclose, and they failed to disclose information regarding the player and manager's remuneration, and then there was breaches of Premier League and UEFA financial fair play, relegations, and they failed to cooperate with Premier League investigation. There's also the accusations of them not reporting the right amount of money that they've gained through sponsorship and all that, because we know the revenue and the amount of money that you generate allows you to to be able to buy more and more players, as we see with Newcastle. Despite the having essentially the most money in football, they can't just go out and get build a super team because of these regulations, and it makes it difficult for them, and they're having to be a little bit more steady and measured with their approach now, the way that Manchester City didn't have to back then. Or according to this, maybe City did it illegally. So it remains to be seen. I hope everything of this gets sorted out by the end of the year. And I just want the truth, whether it is the fact that if it is that City cheated, well, then they need to be properly punished. If not, then, I just want this to go completely away. I don't want this to be if City were to be charged with this, it will not go away anytime soon. This is something we'll talk about probably for the next decade or so, as the consequences come down. But if it's not the case, just make it all go away. I'm tired of talking about City and their, the financial stuff to it. Arne Slot, he said that Federico Chiesa is not fit to start for Liverpool, but he's still been named to the squad for Tuesday's Champions League clash against AC Milan. Chiesa, he got the transfer from Juventus during the final week of this transfer window. Former Juventus player Chiesa, he's since that European Championship in 2020, he's had a lot of injuries and haven't really been able to get back to that level. And he, now Slot, when he was discussing Chiesa, he said, Chiesa couldn't make his first appearance going back to his home country when they take on AC Milan. But his best chance of that is making a late appearance off the bench. Arne Slot said he is for the first time in our team selection. And since I said it's the first time he's in the selection, it would be a big surprise for him and for everyone if he would start tomorrow. So I don't think you would expect that he starts, but he can make a few minutes for the first time tomorrow if we need him, and that is something we will see. But don't expect him to be there from in the starting lineup. He's been with Juve training on his own for a long time, and now with us for a few weeks. He had some training time, but it's too early for him to play 90 minutes. Hopefully he can make his first appearance in the upcoming fixture. I always like to bring in quality players, and I think that he is a quality player that combines quality with an enormous work rate. The culture of this club and the culture of this team is working really hard when we don't have the ball. And I think he brings this to his game in combination with scoring goals and combination with he can play in several positions up front. So it's good that he's able to get back into the squad, especially going back to his home country. And LAFC, they were able to re-sign Carlos Vela till the end of the season. San Diego FC hires Mickey Varas as head coach. We know Mickey Varas, he was the interim coach for this U.S. men's national team this past international window. And then let's discuss what happened in the Premier League that we haven't discussed about up to this point. Newcastle, they got a victory over Wolves, 2-1. They find themselves, tied with Arsenal, in second place in the league with 3 wins and a draw. Aston Villa, they were able to get a win. Everton, their second straight week of blowing a 2-0 lead. This time they do it to Aston Villa. Brighton and Ipswich Town finished stalemate. Really one of the more surprising results of the weekend. Brighton not being able to get past Ipswich. And that was at home too. So that was a good point for Ipswich coming at home. Something that they can build on for Ipswich after, the 2 opening day disappointment results against Liverpool and Manchester City, which is expected. In the last 2 games, 2 draws, 2 points, not bad, but they need to get back in the win column for them. They do take on Southampton next week, who hasn't had a single point this season, so that's maybe a good opportunity for Ipswich Town. If they can get a win there, 5 points in 3 games, I think that's really good. After that, 2 games against Liverpool and Manchester City. Crystal Palace and Leicester City finished 2-2. Fulham and West Ham finished 1-1. And then City, they got that 2-win over Brentford. Erling Haaland scored the brace. Now Erling Haaland finds himself with 9 goals in 4 games now. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous, Erling Haaland and what he's doing. 9 goals in 4 games. He's well on his way to, smashing, the Premier League goals going right. Obviously, only 4 games in. It's ridiculous to, sort of, expect this sort of production for the rest of the season. But 9 goals in 4 games is just flat out ridiculous. And he is really a ridiculous player. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow.